So I recently turned the big 3-0, and while that was something I was really grateful about, I couldn't help but feel that there was a part of me that felt a little behind in life. And I actually found that really interesting, and I wanted to explore as to why that is. Everyone around us has this subconscious fear of growing older, and we have these pop culture references all around us that prevent us from wanting to hit certain milestones because we're afraid that after those milestones, things are just downhill from there.
My God, why?
And we all know that in reality, it's completely the opposite thing. Things get better, we mature over time, and we're able to enjoy life in a more meaningful way as time goes by as well. But I wanted to dive a little deeper into why exactly it is that so many of the people today feel behind in life and continue to do so, and why that feeling is so much more stronger today than ever before. So one of the first things I realized is that it's actually not your fault. Your brain is actually hardwired to look for things that it is lacking so that it can improve its chances of survival, because that's how we survived back in the day. And by back in the day, I mean thousands of years ago. Our brains have a negative bias. We are hardwired to always look for the negatives and to focus on the negatives because that might be the very thing you need to learn to improve your chances of surviving. Thousands of years ago, if somebody was growing crops next to us, the person who grew the best crops is obviously the person who has the best chance of survival. And so ultimately, it was in our best interest to focus on the very things that we were not doing right so that we could improve our absolute chances of survival. It's the keeping up with the Joneses phenomenon. It's why we keep looking at our neighbors and seeing what they are doing better than we are. Now that is still true today, and that's why we still naturally tend to remember that one thing that somebody had said negatively about us rather than the thousands of compliments that we had received. Our brains are hardwired to remember the negative more than the positive. It's why the news is always so darn negative. But now today, things are taken to the absolute extreme with the advent of social media. Because you see, on social media, we are scrolling through all the profiles of our friends and family and loved ones, and also people that might be absolute strangers. And then we go and compare our normal lives to somebody else's highly curated and highly edited highlight reel. In many ways, social media is the highlight reel of someone else's life. It is a way for us to reinvent ourselves and to portray a particular image for the general public to see. And more often than not, it's going to be the most successful versions of ourselves, minus all the other shortcomings that we have. And that is why so many people tend to burn out, because you cannot maintain it. There will always be somebody doing something that is younger than you, doing it better than you, and doing it in a different way to what you thought. So the problem is we all have brains that are hardwired to find the things that we are lacking. And then now we have social media that is throwing in our face everybody else's highlight reels. And so there is a bias towards what we are actually comparing ourselves to. An unfair bias on ourselves. And I think in lockdown period, this has become worse than ever because we are all confined to our homes and the only interaction we have with somebody else is through their social media profiles or their virtual avatars, which is again not their true selves. Before lockdown, we had opportunities to actually meet our friends, actually meet other people, and we would see the nuances and the imperfections that they have, which is ultimately what makes us all human. But with social media, we're not really exposed to other people. We're exposed to their weirdly curated, highly edited versions of themselves, the part of themselves that they want you to see. And so because you're only exposed to that version of them, you're once again more likely to compare yourselves negatively to that image. The third thing is that society has this weird way in which the younger you are, the more your achievements are highlighted. We see it all around us. So-and-so is the new youngest billionaire, the youngest entrepreneur. Forbes keeps releasing year after year lists of people to watch under 30 or people to watch under 25 or people to watch under 15. I don't know. So we have a situation where the younger people are, when they achieve things, the more they are rewarded. And so you again have this bias in your head where you think the older you are, the less successful you're becoming. So we have a situation where we have a society that rewards people for achieving things at a younger age. And then we have brains that are hardwired to always look for the negative in every single situation. And then we have social media that is bombarding us with the most perfect, highly curated versions of other people. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why anxiety and depression levels are skyrocketing these days. So then what can you do? Is there something that you can actually do to make sure that you continue focusing on yourself and growing in a meaningful way? The good news, there's a lot you can actually do. The first thing is you have to be aware of what is happening around you. All our social media apps these days are hardwired to make you focus on that app for as long as possible. Their focus is on your attention. The more insecure you feel and the more affected you feel by the things you are seeing, the more likely you are going to keep on scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And so the most important thing, first and foremost, is to be aware of all these things and how they actually affect you. Because if you are aware of something and then you still let it control you, that's on you. The second thing that has helped me a lot, and that has also through research been proven to help thousands of other people, is the act of journaling. We've heard so much about the benefits of journaling, and I'll probably make a video about that at some time. But the very act of throwing your thoughts down onto a piece of paper or whatever it is, and understanding your thoughts is the first step that you need to take to actually start gaining control of the thoughts that are actually helping you versus the thoughts that are nonsensical. Which brings me to the third thing, which is the act of mindfulness and meditation. I could spend hours and hours talking about how useful mindfulness and meditation has really been for me, and I think it is the single most important habit that every single person needs to take part in their own lives. But more on that on a separate video. The fourth thing is gratitude. The very act of reframing your cognitive bias and instead focusing on the things that you are grateful for will in turn be the best thing you can do to make sure that you understand that there is so much to be thankful for in your life and that you are actually growing in a meaningful way. And finally, the most important thing that I think we can do is to focus on living a life of meaning, not a life of success. Success is an external thing. It is something that is defined by other people. It is defined by society standards, and it keeps on changing. Focus instead on the things that you find meaningful and valuable, and focus instead on providing value to another person's life. Because I have yet to find a person who has focused on providing value to another person and has not been fulfilled in the process. Find a thing that you find meaningful in life. Find a thing that makes you come alive, and work on those things day in and day out, because that is the only thing that you need to actually be focusing on. We've all got one life, and we ourselves get to define what that life is going to mean. I can't define that for you. You can't define that for me. Nobody can. But it is up to us to take responsibility for our lives and to actually provide it with meaning and passion and value. And so I hope that helps. It was just a video that I decided to make because I was really fascinated by the way in which our brains can be tricked in today's world. Is there something that you do that actually works well to help you stay focused on what is most meaningful to you? Do let me know in the comments below. But as always, stay safe, keep exploring, and I will catch you on the next video. Cheers.